I get quite a few questions on artificial sweeteners and whether or not they're bad for you. I want to address that.
This is gonna be good.
I'm going to do it by really doing, let's just call it a risk-reward analysis or something of that nature. Okay, depending on the sweetener you consume, it could be like hundreds or 1,000 times sweeter than actual sugar or sucrose is, or corn syrup, really, whatever sweetening additive that gets put into food. So if you want to do a comparison to look at a risk-reward, it would be something like this. Let's just say that artificial sweeteners are bad for you, okay? Here's the comparison you would make. If you took the amount of artificial sweetener that you consume, knowing that it could be thousands of times sweeter than sugar, depending on what you consume.
This one has a little sweetness to it.
What if you took that amount of artificial sweetener and converted it to table sugar, and that's what you consumed every day? And if you made that swap from artificial sweetener to table sugar of equal volume and calories associated with the sweetness, which one do you think would be worse for your health? And after you make that comparison, then that should give you the answer of whether or not you should make the swap from either artificial sweeteners over to sugar, or from sugar over to artificial sweeteners, or to just have a moderate frickin' diet, consume what you want to consume in reasonable quantities, maintain a healthy body fat and body weight, and be active. I do want to draw a line in the sand and really let everybody know I don't think artificial sweeteners are that terrible for your health. Now, during the diagnostic phase or tracking phase, or really any phase of sort of lifestyle intervention, especially in regard to trying to swap up your food choices to make your lifestyle a little bit healthier, I don't really suggest people include them. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not they are, quote, good for you. There are, however, practical implications associated with them including you in your diet on a day-to-day basis, especially in the context of including delicious drinks.
Nice.
What I want to address is that delicious artificial sweetened foods and beverages, they do have, as you well know, sweet flavor. And because of that, they do take up and block the flavor receptors on your tongue. And this is where the practical implications of consuming artificial sweeteners come into play in the context of swapping out your nutrition priorities to help with body composition improvement, also known as things like fat loss. When you regularly consume artificial sweeteners, what ends up happening in so many words is that when you attempt to swap your diet from more heavily processed foods that really are made up of ingredients to whole foods or foods that are ingredients, those so-called whole foods, they do not taste as good.
That is disgusting.
And this is a huge problem because one of the adherence issues associated with swapping over to whole foods is that they just don't taste as good as, well, this. And because of that, you end up drinking more of this, and you continuously block your flavor receptors on your tongue, and you dull the flavor of foods that are otherwise quite delicious if your palate hasn't been refined in a while to really delineate the subtleties of all these foods. Dirt tastes good. I'm totally serious. If you take artificial sweeteners out and allow yourself to refine your palate to these foods, dirt does taste good. It really does. It's one of my favorite flavors now. These whole foods that are ingredients don't taste as good, then your likelihood of maintaining a plan that is mainly consisting of these foods goes down. In other words, if your palate hasn't been that refined and you have a hard time breaking down the subtleties of these flavors, those foods that are ingredients are not going to taste as good, and you just will not want to stay on any plan that includes these foods for very long, and your adherence will go down. Demoralization and misery will go up, and then including the more heavily processed foods that are hyper palatable and calorie dense becomes like, what is the word I'm looking for? I figured out the word. It sounds like a better and better idea. I guess that's not a word, that's more of a phrase, but you get what I'm saying. Keep all these things in mind. Artificial sweeteners are not necessarily bad for your health, but they do make single ingredient foods not taste as good, which may make it more difficult for you to adhere to a diet plan that likes to prioritize the single ingredient foods. And if you do not like the flavor of those foods, the likelihood of you staying on goes down, and then reincorporating the highly processed calorie dense, super tasty foods goes up, and then the cycle of crap continues. So keep that in mind. That's why I have a caveat regarding artificial sweeteners. Thank you for your time.